First of all, apologies. I caught up with media outside, and and they had to go somewhere, so I had to make you guys wait for 5 minutes. Make you guys wait for 5 minutes. I'm very sorry about that. And see, this panel discussion is on a very relevant topic on Vision 2020 way forward in creating sustainable products. And I want to highlight on the fact of sustainability rather than just products, because behind every product is an idea. Behind every product, or even a service, is a vision, is a mission. And maybe we should talk broadly on all these things besides just talking about products as one thing. Let me begin with Mr. Srinivas Krishnaswamy. So you're from Krya Consumer Products. Krya Consumer Products. I'm pronouncing.
So the way we pronounce is Krya.
Krya. Okay. So
mindful action.
So Acha Krya. Okay. Very good. So I had a question for you. So since you are working in the consumer space, consumer product space, I remember in 1990, Colgate came up with an ad saying that you can like a semicircle as much as we can. Colgate came with an ad that use Colgate, don't use coal. 25 years down the line, Colgate came up with a product which had charcoal. And that kind of creates confusion in my mind as to, are we being given products which we don't really need? Are demands being pushed into a zone which are not really needs? And do you think, and that kind of also challenges sustainability in a way, do you think at a lot of spaces, because of the excessive push and the fact that people are able to buy as well, the purchasing power has gone up, are a lot of demands being artificially manufactured where there is no need? And what is the consequence of that?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The one-word answer to all of your questions is yes. So we are being made to consume more. We are being made to consume things that we don't need. We are being pushed into directions that are not good for us. And in the rush to do globalization, by which I mean giving the same product, whether it works or not, at a low cost to anyone and everywhere in the world, right? And through just a set of 7 or 8 companies that dominate most of the market in the world. We are mostly using products that don't work for us, that are not good for the environment, and are not, worth the money that we pay for them. And I'm here to take this contrarian view because just to give a little bit of my, background, I worked for about 8 years in Johnson & Johnson. I've sold lots of products to people who didn't need it. Many of times the products weren't good. I'm not saying that the company was a bad one. Lots of good people in the company with good intentions. But when you get to a company that's so large, that's so old, that has so much cachet, that has such tremendous, brand power and all of that, you really can't stop what you're doing, right? And you have to every year grow the business, right? You have to keep on giving products whether or not people need them, and you'll have to come up with a way to convince them that they need it, right? And how are we doing on time? Can I take a couple of more minutes? Because you've got me on my favorite subject. And it could be like a rant, but it's also the basis of what I'm coming to in what we do.
Go ahead, I have a follow-up question on that as well. So
yeah. And there is the lighter side to this, and there is also a very serious, side to this, as Ms. Lakshmi pointed out in her earlier talk, right? This is slow poison, because what you take as, let's say, acceptable, let's say, koila, don't use koila, and use mine, and then you can change your mind depending on charcoal is a better absorbent and it will clean and all of that. Over a period of time, this leads to a fairly serious kind of, repercussions. And in companies that I have worked in, right? For example, I used to work in a company that was in healthcare, right? So the question would be, and I used to hang out with lunch or coffee with the guys with the diabetes division, and they'd ask a question like, how can I grow this market? Now see the question being asked. 120 years ago, the company started saying, how can I find a cure for disease? The question being asked today is, how can I grow the diabetes market? Because I'm selling a product. The answer is not to cure diabetes. The answer is to make a whole bunch of products that will sustain you, and you're being looked at as not as Srijan Pal Singh, but as a consumer, right? I want share of your wallet. I want share of your disease. I want share of your mind. I want share of throat, depending on what company you are, right? If you're Coke or Pepsi, Robert Goizeta said, I want share of throat, right? I want share of failure. So that's how companies think. And over a period of time, over 50, 100 years, it becomes some sort of a self-perpetuating mechanism, right? So you have to consume, whether or not you want.
So the follow-up question, and I think you can also join in on this, is that people will stop trusting what a company communicates. I mean, I'm not sure whether charcoal is good for teeth or not, really. And I'm not sure of a lot of things. So if anyone wants to take that, you want to take that? Or
yeah, I do.
Maybe then you can also come because you're working in the media space, so you can.
Okay, so two things, since we're talking about healthcare here, and it's very important that we address that. Charcoal is not bad for your teeth at all. Okay, charcoal is what our ancestors used to use to brush the teeth. You don't consume it, you brush your teeth and you spit it out. Point number one. Point number two, are we being thrust with so much of products that we don't need? Especially in healthcare, we are. I find this very shocking. As a matter of fact, I can say this very bravely because I am from the allopathic field and I have completely switched over to Ayurveda. So I have absolutely no compunction in saying that allopathy is out to get into your pockets in all the wrong ways possible. You go to a corporate hospital with something as simple as a fatty liver. What they will tell you to do is they will ask you to get a liver transplant. This, I am not kidding. This happens routinely in our clinic. We get patients from the lower strata of society. 40 lakhs is the bare minimum for a liver transplant. Okay, and I don't have to mention names here. We all know who these corporate hospitals are. 40 lakhs to 80 lakhs, depending on where you are, depending on who you are, is what the bare minimum range is for a liver transplant. You don't need a liver transplant. Ayurveda can cure liver problems without any issues for, I wouldn't even call it a fraction of the cost because that's being insulting to Ayurveda. It's much, much less than that. If it's 40 lakhs, you can cure it for about 2,000 rupees. Do the math, right? All the person has to do is he has to pop a pill that the doctor gives, and he has to do it for about 6 months to a year to 2 years, depending on the severity of the case. Whereas if a person somehow gets its friend funded or crowd funded and gets 40 lakhs, he has a maximum hope of living for maybe 4 to 5 years. Whereas you go in with an Ayurvedic and natural system of medicine, he can live a full life after having his liver disease taken care of. So, yes, demands are being created by the market in a very unfair, very unscrupulous, very ruthless manner, and you don't need to do that.
And since you're at it, and in the pharmaceutical industry itself, even the product is under question, right?
Absolutely.
Anywhere between 15 to 50% of the drugs in the market are being labeled as spurious.
Absolutely.
So, you agree with that, and where do you see that going? I mean, healthcare. A doctor once told me the drug is just a placebo. No matter what drug you take, it's just to give you the confidence that the God will heal you.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And the placebo effect cannot be undermined. The placebo effect is a very strong effect, and it's scientifically proven. You have,
but it's deliberate in that case. In this case, there's talcum powder in capsules. That is also true.
Yeah.
Right. So, you think a better regulation is needed in that respect?
No, talcum powder is fairly inert. It's magnesium silicate. So they use it as a way in which they can compress the tablets, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not the main component of the tablet. The tablet's got its own chemicals. So talc by itself is not a bad thing. It's the amount of talc that you have in your tablet, and that's fairly inert. You consume so many things. You consume Coke and you consume Pepsi.
But spurious drugs cannot be equated with Coke.
I mean, the regulatory authorities are trying their best. They go on these raids. They find spurious tablets. They're all being taken care of to an extent. But in my opinion, and people are beginning to come to this conclusion slowly based on their own experiences. Most of these allopathic products, chemical moieties, chemical little molecules, these are all harmful in the long run. You may end up curing your cold right now by taking a bunch of and something that just boggles my mind, completely boggles my mind, is you go to a doctor for a cold, he will give you an antibiotic. Okay, let me make this very clear to all of you. An antibiotic by definition,
It's a
is
bacteria.
for a bacterial disease. A cold is a viral disease. It will not help you. Okay? Do not take an antibiotic for a common cold. The doctor is just trying to increase his business. Right? So this is where this is not sustainable, right? It's sustainable for the company, right? Because, you know, for the common cold, antibiotic, he's going to end up damaging the liver. He's going to give you a liver transplant in the long run. It's really good for the company and the corporate hospital, but for the population in general, it's very dangerous. Right? This is not the way you address a healthcare problem.
Absolutely. So I want to come to you on this then. So catching on his point and his point, I want to know from you, you know, how do we communicate this to the people? Now, this is a limited set of audience, and we just got to know that, you know, and I'm sure a lot of you have consumed please raise your hand, all those who have consumed antibiotics for cold. I've done that. See, everyone has done that. So now you know that antibiotics are not for cold. Common cold and many other diseases actually. Antibiotic is like you get it no matter what you go. Going to a doctor is like getting an antibiotic. So my problem is that what do we trust? I mean, popular advertisements are anyways falling flat when the trust is coming. Social media is one media, and peer review, you know, things like even hotel rooms are reviewed by others are finding better acceptability in people. But where do you see the new communication happening? How do we communicate this to the people?
Good afternoon, and even I'm a person who used to take antibiotics for all common cold. Now I will stop. I'll make sure that, you know, I'll have something.
Some doctors are going to write to you, you know.
Tell us, you know, which is a better medicine, so we'll have that. Okay, as far as, you know, this situation is concerned, let's look at what's happening in the world. There's something, you know, message going around in WhatsApp groups about the kind of percentage of pesticides in aerated beverages. And I don't know how many of you read about a popular director who has done a film called Traffic. He died at the age of 41 just because he was drinking 15, you know, I can't name the brand, but he was drinking 15 liters. Okay, if you can. Okay, I don't know, you can say that. I'm from the industry media, so I don't want to talk about the brand. But he was drinking continuously, you know, the aerated beverage. Every time, you know, he was shooting, he was drinking. He was drinking, and I'm not talking about hot drinks or, you know, beer, but he was drinking aerated beverages available on the road, you know, shops. Now, we all have this habit of, you know, just like that, you know, drink a Coke, drink a Pepsi, drink some aerated beverages, without realizing what's actually causing us the damage inside our body. And that director, which is a very promising director who made some wonderful films, he died. Just because he was drinking continuously. So what is
like drinking continuously means,
you know, in a day, you know, in a day 15 bottles and, you know, 15, 20. So I'm talking about, you know, we all, you know, are the product of consumerism. You know, we are all sold by products, you know, whether it is the medicines, what he's talking about, you know, whether it's aspirin or, you know, whatever, aspirin and any tablet, to that extent, you know, to aerated beverages, to anything. We all, you know, led by the consumerism, and we all believe what is advertised in the television or in a newspaper. The product is completely without any damage to our health, and we all go by that. So we are not really aware of what are the side damages unless, you know, it comes out really in the paper and the research and all this stuff. The consumerism has a lot of advantages. You know, it gives a huge growth to the industry, huge growth to the, you know, what do you call, the GDP of the country. But at the same time, you know, it also brings in enormous problems to the people, because the consumerism, in the right way, it's good. I'm talking about right kind of products. In fact, I was just talking to him, and he's talking about organic foods. If the consumerism happens, you know, a revolution happens in organic foods and organic, you know, vegetables, today that's a trend. A lot of people, you know, buy organic foods and organic vegetables. They cook with organic vegetables, but that's only a fraction of the people. The same way, the percentage of people who take Ayurvedic medicine is very, very small, despite knowing it is the best way to actually cure your health. But when this goes up substantially, it will be much better. Actually, I would say that that's a better consumerism than what's happening right now.
Okay, and continuing the question of communication, I'm going to ask you a difficult question on this one. I'm going to ask audience poll on this as well. You know, there was a recent case about a product, which you will of course name, where the product had certain deficiencies, and it's happened twice now. Popular FMCG products, and there was a drive to also hold accountable the brand ambassadors for the faults in the products.
Yeah.
And I would expand that horizon. A lot of products come with promises which we know are not true, which we know are not being used by the people who are being shown to be using them. The soft drink is being shown by a lot of popular celebrities, and if there's a death because of the soft drink, maybe should we hold brand ambassadors accountable for the quality of the product they represent?
I would 100% say that, the reason is today, the biggest, mockery of happening is the fair and lovely culture. All this, advertisement, you look at it, a fair girl will come and she will put a black makeup and she will use fair and lovely, and within no time, in 10-second ad, or 20-second ad, she will become very fair. And they will say that, fair and lovely. And all the people, today the biggest growth, cosmetics, if you look at it, it's fair and lovely kind of brand. A fair person. He's already looking fair. And then he says fair and handsome. He advertises this particular product.
So this wrong
it's
story.
Not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair. It's not lovely either.
It's not fair. It's not fair in the sense, you are already fair, man. And don't say that you are consuming the product. Okay, just because you are consuming the fair and this particular handsome, you become fair. No. You should not endorse the sketch on a product. If you are really genuine, in the sense like you are a dark-skinned person, or somewhere like Indian, like brown.
No, but unless you have gone through the cycle yourself, how can you claim something which you have not done yourself?
Because that's money. It's all about money. It's just somebody comes and says this is a very poor
so
product.
if there is money and there's consideration by any contract, it comes under certain obligations.
Yeah, that's right.
So should brand ambassadors be held guilty?
No, their contracts are very safe. They will say that very clearly. The brand ambassadors, their contracts are very, very safe. It says very clearly, I am no way accountable for the failure of the product. And if there are any damages, if there are any claims on the product or from any consumer, it will go only to the brand and not to the brand ambassador. That particular thing is very clear in their contract. So with that condition only, they will come and endorse. They'll say that what the hell you are talking about? I can't really use the product and check for myself for 10
are they
years and then
ethically
endorse the
responsible?
product.
So you agree that they are ethically responsible? At least
They're ethically responsible.
Maybe not contractually?
I would say that they are ethically responsible.
Say something.
100% responsible. In fact, I feel that, if you're endorsing a cola and you're an athlete, right, I should say that you should be made to drink it every day and then see if you can perform.
How many of you agree with that, his statement?
The only example is, I can think of a Pulela Gopichan, right, after he won the 2001, All England, he refused to endorse, saying that if I'm an athlete, I can't consume this.
I can't teach children to do
that's
something which I don't.
really, I think, where he broke off with Saina Nehwal as well, and over many reasons, right? But I mean, the kind of products that his protege Saina Nehwal is endorsing, I mean, she's endorsing instant noodles, cola, I mean, all sorts of things. No, I don't blame her, right? But it's impossible to be a top athlete if you consume these products.
Great. Can someone set up this slide? I have a visual question now. Let's go slide on the third slide. Yeah. That one. Right. So fair point. So we do agree on this point. At least we have a good traction from the house as well. I've got another question which I want to discuss on the slide as soon as it comes off, because here's the one picture I found on CNN, and you might have heard of this incident which happened earlier in February, actually January 28th. Vivek, can you get that? Yeah. Okay. Some bit of pause. Right. I don't want to disclose it. No, I want to show it first. Yeah, now it is. Next slide. Next one. Yeah, this one. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is a satellite shot of Mumbai. You can see the Thane Creek is there. Of Deonar dumping ground. Deonar dumping ground is Asia's largest waste ground. And on the 28th of January this year, have you heard of this incident? Raise your hands. Like media, so we should have heard of this story instead of kind of stories which we're hearing. The Deonar dumping ground, which a lot of you would not know, is Asia's largest waste ground in the heart of Mumbai, caught fire. And for 6 days, it kept burning. And this is a satellite shot on the third day of the Deonar dumping ground. Unfortunately, I had to pick it up from CNN and not one of the Indian channels, who were discussing something else, and we all know what all. So, but that's not my question. It's not about media. Of course, media has a role to play in highlighting these health hazards, and these are major health hazards. My point is, this is a case of poor waste management. We're talking about Swachh Bharat. We're talking about putting the stuff in the right place, But what do you do after that? You dump it like this and it catches fire. What do you think is the solution going forward in handling India's waste problem? And medical waste is a big problem, but even consumer waste is a problem, and awareness about waste. So all three of you, I can bifurcate this question. Maybe you can start and we can come around it.
I know this is true, and I understand that Sweden is really running short of waste. And they recycle waste like nobody's business. I really think we should figure out a way in which we can ship our waste to them, because they actually use the waste to do so many things. They have the technology to do it. And I'm surprised that nobody in India hasn't thought of this as a business opportunity.
And just to put statistics on that, there are 440 waste to energy plants in the world. Sorry, 2,200. 440 are in European Union and 2 are in India.
Yeah. And actually they are exporting waste. They're importing waste. Sweden is importing waste simply because they don't have any more waste left behind.
Absolutely. You want to say something from the consumption side of it?
Yeah, actually, there are rules. For example, there is a whole concept, right, where the manufacturer of the product is supposed to take responsibility for the waste. In my company, we do it, right? We actively look at ways of using only recycled material, PCR, post-consumer recycled material where possible, reduce, the packaging itself to the point where very little waste is generated in the first place. I'm talking here about prima facie generation of waste,
Correct.
You can control that.
That's what I'm doing.
And that's a design issue. And I think what we are ultimately converging to, like Narasimham also said, is that the answer is not in globalization, which is just taking one thing everywhere, but in technology, which is leaping from here to the next level of actually people wanting waste. I mean, think of the situation in Sweden where they want waste, right? That's unbelievable. That's one part of it. Or that's about thinking and its design. We're talking about design and thinking issues here. How do we design products that use recycled materials?
So I don't know about the economics of the model, but of course, eco-friendly packaging, I assume, is more expensive. Do you think, like in solar policy, India had a benchmark, to support green energy? Should we have green packaging support system, maybe out of the Swachh Bharat tax itself?
Yeah, yes and no. Ultimately, the answer is not to, let's say, I will levy tax and do things like that, or to have subsidies and support programs. While those government interventions need to be there, I think the people creating these products, that's where the answer lies. The government can only support, but you will have an issue like this if you just wait for government policies and subsidies and schemes to intervene, right? Those are all, things that can come later, but it has to be solved at a design and thinking level itself. And it will only happen, if manufacturers are forced to take the responsibility of the waste they create. That there are draft rules there, right? But now people are getting away by just saying that, they'll make people pay for plastic packaging. But the answer has not yet come to a place where the manufacturer is actually responsible for what he says. I can remember reading in a, Edward D. Bono book, one of the books on lateral thinking, right? Said that if you're manufacturing something, along a river, right? And that's where a lot of dumping from factories take place, right? For example, he says, then you should be responsible for what happens upstream. So you won't pollute the water, right? So you need really out of the box thinking right now, because the situation is pretty desperate.
One more question. So quickly, he's already indicating time. On the communication, then I've got one more question actually, one more slide to show. On the communication of waste management, on creating public support, on maybe, as ma'am was saying, cinema, maybe the hero should stop polluting, and maybe you should have an index where we can index cinema based on how friendly they are for the society and children and women and all those parameters you talked about, and maybe rate not IMDb rankings but also on social friendly rankings. So what do you think?
I believe that all these programs we launch of Swachh Bharat and all this, it doesn't percolate down to the individuals. If you look at the homes and all the complexes, the way they dirty on the roads. After the launch of the program and all the top actors have been nominated as people, they were just going and giving a pose, okay? Then everybody forgets it, okay? The Swachh Bharat is forgotten, and only the people, the taxpayers are made to pay the tax for the Swachh Bharat initiative. I would put it like this, the initiative has to come from everyone within the locality, like how to make it clean and how to recycle or how to clean it up, how to make it, that waste is completely destroyed within that particular area. India is a huge country and generates huge kind of thing. I don't think, even if you show on the cinema, people are going to really follow that. Because they're going to say that, don't show all this nonsense. Because waste is something they don't see on the screen. Or anything which is dirt, people generally don't like it. But I would say we generate consciously, unconsciously a lot of wastage. Like she said, people go to the hotel and they give a lot of bags and bags on food. They pack in sambar in one, chutney in one. They are not able to put in a dabba. So this is the way the culture is going to be. This culture is going to be like this. It cannot be changed. I'm only saying you have to bring it down to the local area. Every area, if you are able to bring in, society is responsible for it. I'm talking about the colonies are responsible for it, and make sure that the empowered groups are there and they're given enough powers and enough kind of responsibility, and they keep rotating. Like for example, all the societies. If you look at it, housing societies are very well managed. Because they got a society, they got a president, they got a secretary, they are responsible, they do a damn good job of keeping that whole society clean. But when it comes to a colony, nobody is responsible. They leave it to the councillor, they leave it to some municipal corporation to take care of it, and then nobody bothers about it. Unless that empowerment, that delegation, that going down to the local level, it happens. All the Swachh Bharat initiative will be on the paper. Look at it 1 year down the line now, Swachh Bharat, and there is no way you can see clean roads or anything clean in this country. You will still see a lot of dirt and a lot of things going wrong. I would say that communication as a strategy, all these initiatives can bring in little awareness about it, but it will not percolate down to the implementation or execution, or finally the result what you are looking for, or a clean India.
So I think Swachh Bharat is cleanliness of the mind before the cleanliness of the street. Now I'm going to take, he's already indicating and he's standing, sit down. Okay, last question. Okay, can somebody hit a down arrow key, and you get only 30 seconds to respond on this one. Down arrow key. Sustainability, where's the slide? Slide me down arrow key. Somebody will do it? Okay, no, that's the up arrow key. Right, sustainability of business as a culture. Are corporates giving an image of sustainability internally? When incidents, who happens, and what is inside, the tip of the iceberg, that's what it's trying to show. If this is, and by estimates, already NPAs are 115,000 crores. Estimates are that it may go up to 10 lakh crores. And that's a lot of money. How do I trust sustainable products coming out of companies which have such a behavior, which have basically run away with banks' money? Do you think corporate culture has to be changed before we talk about sustainable products coming out of those corporates?
2 points. Have you ever come across any of these companies come up with a sustainable product?
The ones in the bottom?
Or
not the guy at the top. The ones at the bottom. There are many companies which are actually on the shelf. There are pharma companies as well who have defaulted.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not, okay, pharma companies, the allopathic pharma companies are not sustainable products. Simply because of the pollution that they create in the environment. I think what the present rules and regulations are happening, focusing more inward towards natural Indian medicine, where Ayurveda has hardly any waste. As a matter of fact, if you go to our factories, I don't know of a single, I've never had to deal with any environment problem issues at all. Because I just source it from the wild, and I put it back into human beings, and then whatever is remaining after processing goes back into the soil. And it's perfectly safe for the soil. As a matter of fact, it's good for the soil. So I'm not aware of a single corporate entity that actually makes sustainable products. Who makes sustainable products are the small guys, like Krya, like me, and we really have no funding at all. This is not a rant at all, and I'm doing perfectly fine without any of these mega crore fundings. I'm totally fine. I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. But the point I'm trying to make is that these are not sustainable products. Let's just get them out of our mind.
Right. You want to add something on this? Quickly.
Quickly, very few things. One is, like he said, it's possible to run a zero waste factory as we do. We run zero waste factories, it's possible. On another note, since this is IIMnetWORK, I have been speaking to some of my past teachers and some IIM directors that a course on environmental thinking for business must be made core. I mean, we've long crossed the stage where it's an elective subject, right? It has to be part of a core teaching, and that's not just at the IIM level, percolate down to IITs and schools and all of that. Thinking about environmental impact in business or technology, depending on the course that you're studying, has to be mandatory. I mean, we're long past the stage where, we can just think about it and talk about it here today at, Taj Connemara. It has to be in the schools and colleges. So that's one way of, getting, for time, but I can speak about this at the end of the day. Sure.
I will put it like this: sustainable products, today in India, where we need to create more and more, is in the villages by the farmers. Today, look at it. You put the cartoon, a guy, was, borrowed 9,000 crores. Whereas if you look at it, farmers who borrowed 1.5 lakhs are being chased by the banks and committing suicide. I would say India needs reform on loan system to everything, is to give more space and more, a long hand to the farmers than to these people, who actually take crores and crores and borrow beyond their limits. And the banks believe that, one day this, airline will turn around, or this pharmaceutical company or a big company will turn around. Look at it, the way the banks fund today, online companies. Today, some of the online companies have borrowed, these are all nothing. If you look at it, some of the online companies have borrowed, or banks have lent or invested, 10,000s of crores in online trading. What kind of sustainable product they are going to bring in? They are only discounting the products, 30%, 20% bookstores. They closed all the bookstores. And today, they borrow money from the banks and everybody is investing, including leading banks invest 2,000, 3,000 crores. Pretty well knowing all these online products, online companies are losing crores and crores every day. They lose 1,000 crores, 2,000 crores every year. So, whereas if you look at these banks, if a farmer goes and says, I want 2 lakh rupees for farming my land for this particular year, they won't. They will ask for the entire property as a, as a collateral. And in case he is not able to pay back because the rain has faltered and rain has, he faced a drought, and they don't give any damn, time. And they put him on such a kind of hook where if he has to give up the land or, it's auction,
the goons
commit suicide.
Basically, the goons
Today, India needs reform. Sustainable products can be created only.
So we do agree that
reform.
sustainable products will only come when companies are sustainable, ethically governed, and even, bottom-up approach. Right. So on that note, I thank all the panelists for your wonderful ideas, for a wonderful debate.